News!
Okay, we'll start with this. The Zuffa boxing criticisms continue to rain down from the usual suspects, even after veteran trainer, fighter, and fixture in the sport, Robert Garcia said, the money over there is good, and they're offering a lot of fighters, a lot of opportunities. To that, Fred Garvin, resident PBC shill and 7-layer loser.
I mean, he must be. Anybody who spends that much time on social media, hiding behind a Google stock image, can't have much going for them.
He responded to Robert by saying, I bet they can't wait to make $20,000. To which Robert responded, will you be paying them if they don't take these fights?
We all know the answer.
Fred responded by saying, will you be telling champions to take short money when Zuffa gets their UBO structure? Robert responded by saying, I have 30-plus fighters, some with top rank, some with Golden Boy, some with Matchroom, some with Zuffa. Now, and a lot with no promoter. A lot have been sitting on the shelf making zero. So again, unless you have somewhere for them to fight and make money, don't worry about what they will be doing.
Another fucking idiot who bows at the altar of Al Heyman and his PBC, not knowing the ball from the bounce or that Al has turned out to be an abject failure. His PBC has turned out to be a failed experiment with enough time on his hands now to worry about what Zuffa's doing because PBC doesn't have a schedule.
And Zuffa does. Somebody really should ask Fred, who's got more skin in the game? Robert and all of his fighters, or Fred?
Who knows more about it?
Robert and all of his fighters, or Fred? Fred's a crab in a bucket. Kind of guy wants to drag everybody down with him, because while he criticizes these fighters for going over to Zuffa, he doesn't offer up a solution.
A solution to the ongoing problem the American boxing scene is facing, that most of the broadcasters that used to show boxing have since withdrawn, and there are a lot of fighters out there that have been displaced. Where are they supposed to go? Fred must not think that's a problem. But going to Zuffa is?
Then what's the solution, dipshit? Just sit around waiting for the phone to ring? Waiting for PBC to sort themselves out? Or Top Rank?
Oh good, you got all the fucking answers. What should they do?
One of these guys that don't realize when you don't got nothing to say, you should just shut the fuck up. They get it from their moms.
Not wanting to shut the fuck up.
No father figure in his life to teach him how to be a man, so all he can emulate is a woman. A woman who won't shut the fuck up.
Shut up.
You don't have a solution for these fighters and what's going on in the American boxing scene. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about, which is all the more reason you shouldn't be talking to Robert Garcia, least of all, about where he should funnel his fighters.
Fred is suffering from a case of the Dunning-Kruger effect. The least qualified individual to speak is the one with the most to say.
Confidently at that.
Though he's not alone. Paul Magno said, the funny thing about this whole new era in boxing is that box offices were booming, exposure was much higher, revenue was way up across the board before Turkey came in to save boxing. Now, the sport is flatlining, but that's not what media stooges are paid to say. To which Android Uppercut responded, I cannot emphasize this enough. 2023 was the peak, yet they want us to forget the period between 2015 and 2023 like it didn't exist.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that the same period when NBC and Fox and Showtime all ended up leaving boxing and severing ties to the PBC? Why do you guys imagine they did that?
You're knowledgeable. You're the experts.
2023 was peak, according to Android Uppercut. Coincidentally, that's the year that Paramount gave Showtime Boxing the boot and Stefan Espinoza was out of a job. The PBC were out of broadcaster.
Why do you think that happened, Android?
Let me fill you in on a little secret. If it feels like boxing is in a downward trend, it's not because of anything Turkey LL Sheikh did. It was already heading in that direction because of what was going on before it, inundating the market with too many pay-per-views, too many paywalls, shrinking boxing's core audience.
Oh, you could argue that that's still going on now, but that didn't start now, did it? No, that's been going on.
Turkey's not the one that started that practice. When it comes to that, nobody's more culpable than the PBC, since nobody more than them was doing pay-per-views and on two separate platforms, on Fox, on Showtime.
So do you think that when exposure is high and the numbers are robust, that's when a network would decide to leave boxing?
When everything's all sunshine and rainbows? Or maybe what it is that your recollection of events long since past ain't the way it was, and that's not the way it happened. Boxing has been on a downward trend from that period in 2015 to 2023.
There is a direct correlation between the inception of Al Heyman's PBC and the downward trend for boxing in this country.
Because ever since its inception, viewership numbers for boxing in this country have been down year by year. What the PBC did,
they promoted division within the industry, which in effect created market instability by attempting to isolate themselves from everyone else, simultaneously oversaturating the market with too many box office fights. In that period, nobody was doing pay-per-views more in the United States than they were.
Coincidentally, that's the period where those metrics begin to nosedive, while idiots like Android Uppercut and Fred Garvin are dancing in the streets that Gervonta did 225,000 pay-per-views.
This is a long conversation that we don't have time for here, but in a word, these are the last people that Robert Garcia should be taking any financial advice from.
This industry's been his bread and butter for decades. What the fuck is he gonna learn from them? From the outside looking in, attempting to rewrite history and misrepresenting how it is we got here.
Newsflash, stupid. Fox and Showtime didn't leave boxing because business was booming. ESPN.
Same thing. The promotional outfit you continue to cape for did a lot of damage to this industry, and that's what we're seeing. It's not because of Turkey.
Oh, shit was already fucked up before we got here.
But because you're a bunch of lying pieces of shit, I don't expect you to say that.
Didn't like his comments. I mean, I haven't taken in. I mean, the only thing he said I thought was a bit strange. I mean, every time I'm with Dana, he has been like, and also I'll always say, he's been great to me. He's been extremely hospitable. I like him a lot. Respect him a lot. I didn't like his comments. He knows that we're the only players in boxing that come close to what those guys do as a business. And I didn't like him labeling us, you know, almost like in a box with everybody else. So when you say, you know, boxing promoters, they think small, they don't think big. I'm like, I mean, I've been accused of a lot of things. Thinking small is not one of them. Never said anything personal about Dana White, and I would never do so because he's been good to me.
It's not a personal rivalry, it's a professional one, and rest assured that's what it is. Moreover, Eddie Hearn's the one who asked for it. Dana White didn't come into boxing saying, I want to compete with Eddie, and I want to compete with Matchroom. I want to go against them. That was Eddie that said that.
I didn't have a problem with it, and I still don't, because a competitive market makes for a healthy market, where every major player has to stay on their toes to compete with every other major player.
But Eddie's the one who asked for it. He recently commented on Zuffa Boxing's decision to sign Jai Opataya and perhaps work with the Alphabets to some degree after all. He said, on one hand, we're not recognizing belts. On the other, with Jai, it's we're doing a unification.
Contradiction!
Or growing pains. Is Zuffa figuring it out on the fly or sending mixed signals already? This is getting a lot of attention. Oscar De La Hoya made light of the same thing.
Contradiction!
Call it a contradiction or call it growing pains. Either way, it gives Zuffa a new avenue of opportunity to beef up their stable in a way that perhaps they didn't originally intend to.
Is it possible that Zuffa Boxing has tweaked their original plan and they're adapting on the fly, learning as they go? If they are, that's not a bad thing.
So they said they weren't going to work with the sanctioning bodies before. When DAZN debuted in America, they said that pay-per-view was dead.
Remember that?
And then after a few years, they gained pay-per-view functionality because they changed their mind. So at the very worst, Dana White changed his mind. Because he did, now he stands a better chance of beefing up his stable in order to compete with yours. And I get the impression you don't really like that.
Why would you? Makes your job harder. I'm a fan of Matchroom.
And I like Eddie, but I'm of the opinion that you only wanted to compete with them when you thought they were low-hanging fruit. when you thought, well, these are the new kids on the block still making their bones, and they're only really going to sign B and C and D tier fighters, no one the caliber of a Jai Opataya, potentially an Alexander Usyk, and the list of fighters
Well-known ones.
that could end up over there at Zuffa now that they're willing to open their war chests.
I mean, that changes things. If they're willing to take on fighters that have sanctioning body belts and accommodate them with all of their resources, that makes your job a lot harder.
So Matchroom didn't really have PBC to worry about anymore, and Top Rank are also in a weakened state, Golden Boy as well. It was looking like Matchroom was in a pole position to run things in the United States boxing scene since they were on the most stable ground. Enter Zuffa.
All of their fucking financial backing, that changes things.
But it still seemed like a manageable situation because initially, Zuffa said they weren't going to work with sanction and body belts.
And then they changed their mind.
How does Matchroom compete with that? Even still, with all of Zuffa's backing, Matchroom has the know-how that they don't have, and at least right now, they have the stronger stable, but it's only stronger internationally.
They've got great fighters from all around the world, where Zuffa will be primarily operating out of the United States. So if this is the battleground for Matchroom and Zuffa, then what Matchroom has got to do is strengthen their American stable of fighters.
It's looking more and more like there's going to be a mass exodus of fighters. Some from PBC, perhaps more from Top Rank, and Matchroom needs to work hard to pick the right ones up. Should Top Rank not be able to land on their feet if Keyshawn Davis becomes a free agent, or Emiliano Vargas, or Shushu Carrington.
Sign him.
Richard Torres, very charming heavyweight with a lot of personality and a fan-friendly style. If for any reason he is jettisoned from Top Rank, you better grab him.
Better get him.
Because you're the one who said you want to go up against Dana White. You're the one who said you want to compete. If that's what you want, this is how. Still got a leg up on the competition because you've got brand trust. You've got familiarity that they don't have. The more American fighters you can bring into the fray,
The better standing you're in.
competing with Dana and Zuffa would require you to do a bit more shows in the United States. Matchroom's American offering isn't that strong.
As far as their U.S. fighters, who do they really have? Ammo Williams?
Diego Pacheco?
Omari Jones, but he's still developing. He's still very young. Their strongest offering is via Boots Ennis and Bam Rodriguez.
Those eggs need more bacon. If you really want to compete with Dana and outpace him, you need more American fighters and need to do more shows in America to draw attention away from his.
This is how you compete. Unless you only wanted to compete when you thought he was going to be signing journeymen and gatekeepers. I think, whether Eddie still wants it or not, he's in competition.
I don't really think he has a choice now.
So to really show Dana White who's boss and who's the authority in the boxing space, he's got to act aggressively.
Men's super middleweight news. Former champion Andre Berto doubts Canelo would fight dangerous, violent Christian Mbilli. Canelo Alvarez is currently looking for an opponent. Although no one appears to be the frontrunner, Christian Mbilli has raised his hand in hopes of landing that marquee matchup. The 30-year-old brings a lot to the table, armed with a fan-friendly style and an unbeaten record, and the WBC interim super middleweight title. All of those points would likely go against him in the Canelo sweepstakes. That's Andre Berto's argument, believing Mbilli's aggressive approach isn't something Alvarez wants to deal with at this stage in his career. Mbilli is dangerous and violent, Berto said on this week's latest episode of Inside the Ring. He isn't going to care about your health, and you're not going to care about his either. For most of the professional career to date, Mbilli looked invincible against lesser opposition. However, the heavy-handed contender showed a few chinks in his armor when boxing on the Canelo vs. Crawford undercard against Lester the Molester Martinez on September 13th. Martinez, another unbeaten super middleweight contender, willingly stood in the pocket and traded bombs with the Frenchman during 10 pulsating rounds of intercourse. The WBC ordered negotiations to begin for an immediate rematch, though as of right now, there are no plans for a sequel. Whoever Alvarez ultimately chooses, it will be his first appearance of the year since losing his status as undisputed champion to recently retired Terence Crawford. He has since undergone arthroscopic surgery on his left elbow to remove loose particles, and the ring reported last week that he's scheduled to return on September 12th in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia as part of a Mexico Against the World show. As the future first ballot Hall of Famer narrows down his opponent's search, Berto is firmly of the belief that a softer, less aggressive fighter should be the choice for his return. Is that the type of fight Canelo wants coming off of that loss? Berto continued. I just don't think that would be a smart fight. Historically, fighters like Christian Mbilli, aggressive ones who try to bear down on Canelo, throwing punches and bunches, are the ones that make him look good. It's the movers, it's the boxers, the thinkers that make him struggle, like Floyd Mayweather, Erislandy Lara, more recently, Terence Crawford. That's not Christian.
I understand where Berto's coming from, that at this stage in his career, is Canelo really up for a rough and tumble fight? A physical fight, especially coming off a surgery?
I would argue, though, that at this stage, any unbeaten up-and-comer, almost any contender now, poses a risk to an aging fighter, to an aging Canelo who is over 60 fights into his boxing career in his mid-30s. That's saying that I'm okay if Canelo fights Mbilli, but I'm okay if he doesn't fight him. If he fights Armando Resendiz instead, or the winner of Shiraz versus Pacheco.
None of these guys are any more deserving of a Canelo fight than the other. That's basically saying they're all interchangeable.
So I'm not stuck on any one guy that Canelo Alvarez does or doesn't fight, because after this many fights in this many years, it's a wonder that he's still fighting. He could retire. I do feel, though, that one of these guys is a bit likelier to get the fight than the others, and that's Hamza Shiraz. If Hamza beats Diego Pacheco for the WBO title...
You know, Turkey's sweet on Hamza. He likes that guy, and I think he would prefer to give Hamza that opportunity than anybody else.
For Hamza to get it, though, he's got to make his way past Diego Pacheco, and it's not a foregone conclusion that he does. Though if he does, I do think he's likelier to get the fight than Christian Mbilli, than Armando Resendiz.
Listen, we're a ways out from Canelo Alvarez's ring return. It's all the way out there in September, and there are a lot of moving parts, a lot of things that need to happen before anything with Canelo happens. So we'll just see what happens and take it from there.
Though as far as Andre Berto's perspective on a Canelo versus Mbilli fight, well, maybe he's not completely off base. Maybe not. But Christian's the kind of guy that normally makes Canelo look good because he doesn't have to chase him. And I don't know that that's all of a sudden changed.
It's open for discussion.